down to flush them out.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast hosted by the community. We're your hosts for this evening's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach, and I am joined by my brothers, Mr. Tawami Gaddy, the son of Timothy, also known as the Available Man himself, and also Mr. Garfield Martin, the Uncle Junior himself, also known as the Consistency Coach. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Had a nice, productive week and ready to wind it down with my brothers.
Yeah, man. They had a had a great day. Because I had a really good week too. You know what I mean? I'm glad he mentioned week, so I'm gonna throw in week 2. My oldest son's birthday today, my wife's birthday was yesterday. My mom's birthday was on the 21st. Me and her had a really great conversation earlier this week too. So yeah, man, it's funny how we're talking about extended family tonight. So even though she's my immediate family, I'm really looking forward to the conversation tonight. So yeah, man, I'm doing great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's gonna be fun. And likewise, man, I always look forward to Friday nights, spending time with you guys, having conversation with you guys, but also having conversation with the awesome members who are with us every week. We greatly appreciate you, and we want to make sure that we call you by name. So that being said, good to see you and welcome to the show. Michelle Ray, Nick D, and Crystal Everett, Cassandra McKenzie, Lisa Keys, Adrian Walter, good to see you. I'm sorry, Walthour, good to see you. Miss Charlotte Jordan, again, happy belated birthday. Miss Sharnethia Burns, good to see you. Ben City, good to see you, bro. Be careful on the road. And last but not least, Miss Verlene McCoy, aka Queen V. Good to see you. And listen, for those of you who have not gotten in the chat and announced yourself, by all means do so. And because we like to call you by name and give you your flowers now. Also, if this is your first time and you're on YouTube, look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. You will see the YouTube icon. Put your cursor over that and, click this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. But don't just hit the bell, hit the drop down and select all. That way you'll know every time we go live on this channel. Christian Barrow, good to see you, brother. That way you know every time we go live on this channel. Now, I'm with you, Unc. I am excited about this conversation because I think it's going to be fun. And we're going to have some good times as we start to unpack this. So, without further ado, let's kind of get after this conversation. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the complexities of navigating relationships within in your extended family? Maybe you struggled with balancing your own needs with family expectations, or perhaps you've encountered conflicts and misunderstandings that seem impossible to resolve. If you can relate to any of that, you're not alone. These are common challenges faced by many families, and we're here to help. In this episode, we dive deep into the heart of extended family relationships, examining the joys, challenges, and everything in between. From shared histories and traditions that bind us to the conflicts and misunderstandings that challenge us, we seek to explore the essence of extended family dynamics in a modern world. By watching this video until the end, you'll not only gain valuable insights and practical solutions to these problems, but you'll also receive a free gift designed to help your family identify and address key concerns. This tool will be invaluable in fostering better communication, understanding, and harmony within your family. So stay tuned and join us on this journey to a stronger and healthier family connections. Now, as we kind of dive into this and start to unpack it, gentlemen, I want to make sure that I give my disclaimer first and foremost. I love all y'all. That's my disclaimer for tonight, right? But no, seriously, on this channel, this is the empowering perspectives, and again, we want to make sure that we appreciate everybody's perspective. We believe that we are the subject matter experts of our own perspectives, and therefore, whatever anybody's opinion is, it is welcome. So even if you're in the chat, by all means, share your thoughts. We look forward to your thoughts, and by all means, ask questions, because you guys know I will derail a show for the sake of a question. Now, before we get into the details of this conversation, I want to ask a very simple question, because I don't want to assume that everybody have a clear understanding. But what is your perspective of extended family?
Man, there's the first thing on my list. Who are the extended family? So, since neither one of you guys are going to start off the show by defining it, I guess I will take and take a stab at it. Because I was thinking about this, I was like, who is my extended family, or who are the people that are in the extended family, or who would people consider extended family? So even before then, I need to back up and kind of define what family is, at least to me. At least to me. Now, I do not believe that family and relatives are necessarily the same thing, right? So I believe that we cannot choose our relatives, but we can choose our family. Now, for a lot of people, their family and their relatives are the same people, they're interchangeable. But for me, it's not. Now, most of my family or most of my relatives are my family, but not all of my relatives are my family. So my extended family is the people that I consider my family, whether or not they are my relatives, or whether they're not, or whether they are my close friends. So I have a friend um named Clyde. Me and Clyde have been friends since elementary school, since middle school. So we have over 30 something years, 35 years of friendship, and he lives about a half hour away. So Clyde is considered an extension of my family, or my extended family. I have family members who are biologically kin to me, even by blood, and they have adopted or either brought in people that were not biologically theirs and raised them. And those people would also be considered part of my extended family. So, and also even right now, my extended family, now that I got married 2 years ago, is my wife's side of the family. So all of those people are considered my extended family.
Unc did a lot of the work, so I don't have to. Um, so thanks, Unc. I'll just say, my if I take that same avenue, my family first, is that woman that took my daddy name through covenant relationship with one, myself, uh, uh, my wife, then my children. So that to me would be my immediate family as of now, uh, as as a man like Al Bundy, married with children. Um, then I would have to say that my siblings now become extended family if our relationship is still, you know, close like that, because my first priority is always going to be the wife, then the kids. Then I got siblings, nieces and nephews galore because they all got like 13 kids. Love y'all if y'all watching. But outside of that, uh, what we normally would say is immediate family to me is extended, right? And then there are like Unc said, my wife's family. And then those who I have created a bond with that we are like, though those play cousins you have grown up, you know, as adults, they no longer play cousins. They become brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? And so that's extended family, and those people, as we've had these conversations over and over again about what's my circle and what's my community, uh it extends as far as that circle goes, and that's extended to me. That's my perspective.
No, I like it. I like it, and I think it's important to define what. And I'm gonna steal. I think it's Lisa. I'm gonna steal her phrase: the core family versus the extended family. And I like how Unc you started off. You said, and I don't want to mess up your words, so I'm gonna kind of paraphrase it in my own words the way I see it. There are those who I'm related to, and then though there are those who I'm relative to. And in my mind, that's how I decided. That's how it makes sense to me. I can be related to you by blood, but we have no relation whatsoever. So you're not necessarily relative to my life or anything that I'm doing. But then on the other side, you have those individuals who are relatives. They are not only related to me by blood or not, but they're relative to everything that I have going on and vice versa. So that's how I view it in my mind. Now we start talking about extended family. We got the core family, and I think somebody mentioned that previously. Within the scope of what Gaddy was talking about and what you were talking about, you got husband, wife, and children. That's your core family. Okay. Everybody else is extended. Let me say it again. Everybody else is extended. So when it comes down to what I'm doing with my child, I am the authority. You don't get a right to do and or say anything with my child opposed to what it is I am teaching or talking about. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about generally how it should work. Because here's the other side to it. If I don't know a thing, then that's where the relatives are supposed to have conversation with me. Let me say that part again. They're supposed to have conversation with me, not directly with my child. So when we do that, we're in error. We're superseding this thing that they call authority. So we got to be careful. So when we start talking about grandparents, aunties and uncles and cousins and in-laws and outlaws and all those other people, right? They're extended. You don't get to supersede anybody within the core. So that's the way to look at it. And I think that's the best way to view it as we move forward, because anything outside of that, we collectively are out of order, especially if I allow it. Let me say it again, especially if I allow it as it pertains to my household. So I think a lot of times, and again, like I said, I love y'all. I think a lot of times we kind of, we kind of just step out of bounds sometimes because it's easy to do so, right? We think we're doing the right thing, but if we're not doing the right thing the right way, then it's no longer the right thing. So we got to make sure that we're consciously aware of what we're doing and how we're doing what we're doing as we dive into this conversation. So I greatly appreciate those responses. Go ahead, Unc.
I agree. I also I don't want to dwell on the exception.
Mhm.
I do want to mention that culture does play a factor in some of this as well. My wife is Native American, and they have aunts and other people in the family who we would look at as overstepping their boundaries, but out there is kind of a matriarch type system. So aunties and grandmas can get, they have a little bit of leeway and leverage in getting into business and stuff like that. So like I said, I don't want to just, harp on the exception, but I did just want to mention some cultural differences that, that people may have too.
No, absolutely right. And I'm glad you said that. And I don't really see that as being separate though, because even with that being said, it is still within the best wishes of the parents. Less like when we were growing up, we lived by the moniker of it takes a community to raise a child. So if you were out in the street acting up, somebody would catch you in the streets and, they would deal with you in the streets. Then they would call your parents and say, hey, this was going on. This is what I caught him doing. I just wanted you to understand that. Well, good. Send him home so I can deal with him next. So that's still within the good graces of the core of the parents.
And do people have to either buy into this system, or does it kind of have to be approved? You know what I mean? Because the parents got to kind of be able to buy into this if they're going to just allow, son of Timothy's, little bitty son of Timothy come through, and I'm like, hey man, put your pants up. He in third grade, and I'm telling him to pull his pants up. Not saying that he does that, but it's just as an example. Or is, am I going to have, you know what I mean? So I'm just wondering, is it,
I don't
like,
think it's
you had to buy in?
I don't think it's the parents per se or any one person. I think it has to be a collective buy-in, right? Because if I call you my brother, and I'm saying you my extended family, and you tell my son to pull his pants up, you know me and I know you. So I know I don't walk around with my pants sagging. That's not what we do, right? Or even let's even go outside of what I do or what I don't do. I know you and I know your intentions. And I know who I call my extended family. And so I have to buy in to that. This is what if I buy into this, what my circle looks like, you are correcting my child in my absence, then there's nothing left to say. He said, pull your pants up, son, pull your pants up. But I think what the problem is both parties are not buying into this concept, because I tell your son to pull his pants up and you call me brother, but you turn around and you say, hey, that's my son. He can have his pants. Oh, my bad. You didn't buy in to what I bought into, or I didn't buy into the fact that I don't correct your son. Now we separated the family in a sense. That makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad you said that, because I think the intent, like you said, is the key. Having the child's best interest at heart. That's kind of like the way I like to look at it. So if you know me, and I think that's the silver lining in all of this, if you know me and you know anything that I tell your child, I'm really only telling your child for his or her good, then I'm not going to tell your child anything to harm them. So that's kind of like where you get into kind of like the extensions, right? Uncle D or whatever that looks like. Like, I ain't really that child uncle, but by virtue of how you and I are connected, now I'm kind of like quasi uncle. And I think even with that, we just got to be a little careful. Don't do it when they're young, because it's almost, it's kind of like, fooling them to think something that doesn't really exist. But as they get older and have a better understanding of where the family lines are and where the relative lines exist, right now we can start looking at, hey, that's Uncle Gaddy, that's Uncle right there. So and I think that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it, because it takes, and I don't want to say it does, but collectively, if we have our children's best interests in heart, then you feel comfortable knowing that your child is walking down the street. He got to walk past my house. He got to walk past Gaddy's house, and so forth and so on. So I think that's kind of like the best way of looking at it. So great questions and great responses. Yes, sir.
Can you bring up can you say those two again that you said a while back? You said relative and what was the other one?
So there are some people that I'm related to by blood.
Related. Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
Related by blood, but we literally have no interaction whatsoever. And then there are some people that are relatives to me, and some of them I am related by blood, and some of them I am not. And they're relative to me because it all helps me to understand who I am working in concert with as we tend to live out this thing called life.
And I think that's the key. I think sometime somewhere along the lines we have broken this ability of being relative in each other's life. Are you like, and so I like that that you use that word for the one that I have relationship with, because your presence, your opinion is relative to my life, you know, and because of so there's no hard feelings or feeling of ill intent when you speak to my child, and vice versa. I think somewhere along the lines we've become so selfish in our ambitions in life that people or other people, no one else is relative in my life other than me, my child, and don't say nothing to them because I'm doing me. Well, then your child loses out on the ability of having a more, let's just, outside of just experience, but a more well-rounded wealth of knowledge growing up, because they're not gleaming from no one. Because if I can't tell your child to not disrespect me, then your child can't talk to me. I hate to say it like that, but I ain't talking to nobody child that I can't correct. I'm not trying to beat on your child, but if your child is disrespectful and I can't say nothing back without you having an attitude, then your child need to stay up under you. They don't need to be in my part of the reason why I'm not teaching, but
Or in my house.
or
So
in my
you,
house here.
yeah, so you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I do believe that there's this thing, ownership, my child, and you don't necessarily understand or process the fact that you were charged with the responsibility of raising that child, but that child does not belong to you. That child belongs to the father. But that's a whole nother conversation within itself. So let's kind of get after this whole conversation. The first talking point is going to be balancing individual needs with family expectations. And under that, the first question is, in what ways can extended family members support each other's individual needs while still upholding family values?
Oh, I think the question for me is, are the people you call extended family, do y'all share the same core values, uh, which then flows into your family values? If so, then that's easy. And I be trying to leave the scriptures up to our evangelists in the chat sometimes because she be going in. But I think that's the concept, that's the understanding of equally and unequally yoked, right? Whether you are a believer or not, trying to be yoked with someone with different mindsets or different core values or different beliefs, it it creates an artificial relationship, because now I have to dance around your belief and your feelings, and I can't be organic around, or you can't be organic around me, because we're trying not to offend one another. Um, so then it becomes hard as extended family members to support. To well, depends on how you what you look at as support, because for some people support is just cheering you on when you're doing something or going through something, or just being ear, and some people support is actually getting involved. And if our family values are not the same, getting involved might look different.
In what ways can extended family members support each other's individual needs while still upholding family values? By following the rules of the family. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to mention my friend Clyde again. Again, we've been friends for about 35 years or so. He is, according to what we've been talking about so far, my core family is my wife and my kids, based off what we've been talking about so far tonight. Now, so that means Clyde would be part of my extended family. Well, part of Clyde's individual need, just like mine, is that me and him spend time together. We've been friends for over 35 years. So I want to spend time with him. He want to spend time with me. I want to go ride the bike. He want to go ride the bike. You know what I mean? So we have to make sure that our relationship continues to grow. So that means we need to spend time together. We need to bond. However, he also has to understand that I have a family. My family, my priority is my wife and my 3 sons and my 2 granddaughters. That is where my family is. That's where my primary focus is. So that's how he supports me, is by following the rules of the family. He know we ain't going out drinking 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. He already know I don't roll like that. He don't roll like that either. You know what I mean? So he has to understand that in this house, there are rules that go on in this house, and there are certain things that we can and we cannot do. And in order for him to support me, and for me to support him and his family, if the roles are reversed, because they are as well, then we have to follow the rules of each other's individual family first. So
I like that response because that's my response. Like the core remains the core. If you are an extension of the family, I'm gonna say that part again. If you are an extension of the family, you are in support of the family. So you don't do anything to violate the family values because you understand the family values. Not only that, you're actually an advocate for the family. Like it's just like us getting on here and we will, always talk about, your wife, Miss Uncle Junior, right? Advocating for the family because that's what we should do. We should be advocating for people's family if you consider yourself to be an extension of the family. And I think that's where a lot of times we miss. I believe wholeheartedly, and I understand it's not necessarily everybody's belief in the same way. I think support is an action. It's not so much as a word. And I think over the years, it has been conflated. But when we start talking about things about like child support, there's no confusion about what that is. That's an action. That's something that has to happen. But when you take the word child off of it and you just use the word support, we think that this is support. No, that's not support. That's cheering. You see what I'm saying? So we got to kind of like delineate between things. Support is doing something on behalf of the thing that you are supporting. So if I am an extended member of the family, that means my behavior is in support of the best wishes of those family values. If I don't know something, I should ask. If I want to know something, I should ask. But it's not my responsibility to take it upon myself just to assume that, hey, just because me and Garfield was in the army together and we ain't never been in the same location, but just, hypothetically speaking, whatever he did back then, to assume that he is doing the same thing now, not saying that he did, I'm just using this as an example, right? To assume that he is doing the same thing now that he's married. No, that's going that goes against the family. So I can't even consider myself to be an extension of the family if I'm trying to coerce you to come out. Let's go to the gentleman's club. Let's go get some drinks, whatever the case may be. I need to understand what is advantageous for you and your family. And then what I do is I become a supporter of that. So anything that I do, who knows? Miss Uncle Junior might need a break. So I may need to take him out. We go for a ride and have man talk, man conversation. You stay out for a couple of hours, not all day long. Then we come back home and everything is good to go. So I love that response. Actually love both responses as well.
I think
Also, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I would say, just the other side of that is that if you want to see what it looks like when someone doesn't support you, look at somebody who is not following the rules of your family. If you got people in your extended family like that, like what you do in your family is not important, what they want you to do is more important, that is not support.
Absolutely. And I think Lisa said it best, boundaries in full effect. Like if that person isn't supporting, if they're going against the family values, then I need to hey, we don't do that around here. So either one or two things need to happen. Either you can respect and or appreciate that, or you can create space. Or I create space for you. Don't worry about it. I got this. So I think that's the best and most appropriate way to handle that. So great responses and great question. Listen, wherever you are, go ahead and hit the like button because as you see, we're going after this conversation full bore. Again, I'm seeing everything you guys are putting in the chat. Keep them coming because what you guys are adding is nothing but value. Next question. How do you navigate situations where your personal goals or values conflict with the expectations set by your extended family?
I mean, really? Is this even a question? Who cares what your extended family thinks? Look, I got to worry about what's going on in my immediate family. Look, me, the shell, and the boys and grandkids, we got our own personal goals and values over here. And if they conflict with what Clyde want to do, oh well, brother, it's all good. But what we do over here, it takes priority. And without, like I said, what our personal goals and values are, like for me, it ain't a conversation. You know what I'm saying? It ain't a conversation. It's going to be, this is how TI is, and that's where it's going to be. So that's my response.
Hey, shout out to my brother Chris and y'all in the chat tonight. But let me try to put on my Chris voice. Okay. I'm trying. Hold on, y'all can't laugh at me.
Yeah, use the word ego too.
I had it written down
or buzzword.
Oh, but if someone put buzzword in the chat, so I wasn't gonna say it. But I can't do it now. I'm laughing. But that's how you know we love you, Chris. We miss you, brother. But for real, I think this question is necessary because someone is in a situation where someone does not understand what this extended family thing is supposed to be. The last question is, how do we support and maintain family values? Well, here's the key thing: support, which means I expect my extended family, as I will for my extended family, understand that though we might be working on something collective, but you also have your own personal thing you're doing. And sometimes that means you can't be right here next to me, and you can't be at my disposal every time I call, and vice versa. Because I know y'all got grown kids, but I got 5 little ones. My oldest is about to turn 13. So there's moments they require my presence. They require me to show up. They require me to be involved, to do this. They got football. My son plays football. He's also in the band. He also acts, and my daughter sings and dance, and I got one of the smartest little boys in my house. And my little girls, when they grow up, guess what? I'm gonna be stretched 5 different ways. What I'm expecting from my extended family is that it's support. I got 2 brothers here who've been through it already, who's already raised grown kids. And sometimes what I need from you is, hey, man, what do I do at this moment? I'm at a crossroads. How do I prioritize? Because when that day come, I'm be calling, and I think that's where some of the hiccup is that some of us feel as if our extended families or family members are obligated to our needs, or obligated or at our disposal when we call. How you supposed to be a friend, and when I called you, you didn't pick up the phone? Maybe because his son called and had something going on. Maybe he was at the football game. So the way I look at it is, if I have an extended family, I expect support for my personal goals and values, conflicts. Like, I should be able to call you. That's where I stand.
Hey, I'm gonna add to on what I said earlier. So yes, there's a cutoff. Nope, ain't no nothing. Blah blah blah. This is how it's going to be. I also understand that if I use the same person, Clyde, I'm also looking at the intent behind why that may conflict with whatever I got going on. You know what I'm saying? And also, we are going to have a conversation. Why is it that you want me to do this? Blah, 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 blah. What is the reason behind it? It may just be we are not looking at the same perspective. You know what I mean? And we've been friends for 35 years. 9.99 times out of 10, me and Clyde going to have a conversation, and we're going to figure out why there is a conflict. So again, I know I said what I earlier, and I do agree with that. I also understand that there are some people that we really consider our extended family. If there is, and if they are part of our extended family, then it's more than likely, if we are mature adults, then we're going to have a conversation and kind of get to the bottom of it.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Chris. Tell your extended family to shut up. I mean, that's
That's what I was going to say. I swear.
I'm sorry. That's
I thought that was Chris because I literally looked away. That was a good one. Who did it?
That was me.
Oh yeah, that was
yeah. So I think it's simple. I don't think it's difficult at all. Like, I think at the end of the day, and Gaddy, I appreciate you using like the fact that you have little kids, right? There you go. Because I get that. I get that. And in that particular situation, like if I call, like I have some things going on in the home and I need to balance some thoughts off of some brothers who've been through it already and things of that nature. Like, yeah, absolutely. That's part of that support we was talking about a few minutes ago. But then there's another side to it as well, kind of going back to what you were saying. Like, if I'm trying to figure this out and I call you and you tell me, say, oh, yeah, man, I was at the pub, having some beers with some, bro, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I needed you. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just keeping it real. But people who know me know that you don't really get a whole lot of opportunities to help me. I'm just being honest. So if I reach out to you because I need some help, then that's a golden opportunity to be there. But once I see that I can't, then I will move on to somebody who is more dependable. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. Because what you're showing me now, because I don't call you often. I don't really like talking on the phone, to be honest with you, because I spend so much time talking on the phone. But if I reach out to you, like knowing I don't call often, knowing I don't do those things, if he's calling me, it must be important. That's really what it is. Like Uncle tell you, me and Unc will talk, but I don't mess with him a lot during the week because he got work, he got his wife. I don't want to be a nuisance. You see what I'm saying? So if I call him, it's because I want to talk about something particular, and we may stay on the phone for a few minutes unless he want to talk about something else. But at the end of the day, I want to get him on the phone and get him off the phone because he got more pressing things to deal with. And I will say that, like, hey, I don't want to take too much time away from Miss Uncle Jr. because I think those things are important. But trust and believe, everybody don't drink from the same straw. So at the end of the day, I can call you and you'd be like, yeah, I hit you back. Cool. Don't worry about it. Hey, man, you coming? I'm good. I got it figured out by now, right? Because my life ain't going to wait for you to finish those 4 beers at the pub. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. So you got to understand that when we start using the term family, whether it's extended family or core family, that's why I started off with related versus relative. Because if you are relatives, then you call, I'm answering the phone. And if for whatever reason I don't answer the phone, trust and believe it's because I couldn't answer the phone, but I will call you back as soon as I could. I think that's the difference. And when we make it anything else, the only thing we're doing is lying to ourselves. I'm just going to call a spade a spade, right? Let's be honest. Most people, when they see that phone ring, they make a choice. Decision is made. I respect your decision. That's just where I am in my life. I will respect any decision that anybody makes. And at the end of the day, I move to the beat of the behavior that you show me. So once the behavior shows up, it supersedes the words. And so that's the thing. When those situations come up, right, and it violates personal goals and values, then I make sure that I navigate appropriately, not violating any of my goals, not violating any of my values, but respecting everybody else's decisions at the same time. If your niece or nephew call you with a serious situation, do you call the sister? Oh, that's a great one.
I'll go. I'm in my 40s. I got nieces and nephews, and I talk to them sometimes. And it's kind of a load. It's a lot. It's I will say that it is not a simple yes or no. It is definitely not a simple yes or no. I think some of the things you take into account is the severity or the urgency of whatever it is that they're talking to you about. How serious is it? Um, I I think that how old is the niece? How old is the child? Are they in what is their maturity level? I think that's important as well. So I think that and then maybe even the relationship that you have with this child or this person, is this the first time that your niece or nephew have called you, or is it, do you guys talk on a regular basis and share certain things? Because this right here, when you get some juicy information, something like this, and it's very serious, you know it's not as simple as just a yes or no. What are you supposed to do? I just think that you have to really think about those three things along with probably some other things, and then make a decision based off of that.
Whew. I told y'all that my siblings all got like 8 apiece. So there's a lot of nieces and nephews out there. Um, but I got nephews as young as like 2, 3 years old, same age as my young kids, and I all the way up to like 30 something years old. If one of my adult nieces and nephews call me, right, the ones in their 30s down to the ones in their 20s, the ones in their 20s, it depends on the situation, right? The ones in the 30s, if it's something that my siblings can help them with, and we can get them involved to get them help to someone that's closer to them, uh, that's a judgment call. But I will have that conversation with them while we are on the phone. There may be a reason. There may be a relationship issue with those adult children and their parents, why they don't want them involved right now. But I will inform them that depending on what it is, that if the situation gets worse, you might have to tell them. I might have to tell them. That might be what the best interest is. But I think for adult people, they, for the most part, can determine who they want and want not to know. But for my younger nieces and nephews, teenage, young 20s, and younger, more than likely, if they're dealing with something that they have to call me because they need help with, their parents has a right to know. I know we live in a world where it's, if they don't want their parents to know, don't tell them. Well, if you live, because I know how I am, so I gotta give the same respect of expectation that I expect, right? But if one of my kids living in my house has an issue and I can't at least know about it, there's a problem. All right, you don't want my help because you don't like how I handle situations. All right, then when my brother and my sister called me and they tell me they got it under control, I'm gonna trust them, but I'm still gonna call them and check, hey, what's going on with this situation? And I expect, because I'm still raising that child, I'm still taking care of that child. So I don't think that there should be. I know how some people feel, but I don't care. This is my perspective. I don't feel like there should be any secrets with what you're dealing with while I'm still taking care of you, because it is my responsibility to help guide you through and navigate you through these situations the right way, because you make a decision that might affect the dynamic in this home. Then all right, well, if he's the only one that can know, then it sounds like you need to be going to live with unc or auntie, because you're not going to change the dynamic of my home, and I don't have a say about the situation. I agree with Coach. It's not always a hard yes or no, but you got to know the dynamic and know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. It's not a hard yes or no, but for me, it's a hard yes or no. And here's the hard yes or no: is the child life in danger? Is this something that's going to violate them? Something that involves a potential physical, emotional, and I'm not really big on that one, physical or some type of psychological harm because they're about to do something that I think is really silly and they're talking to me about it, then I am going to talk with them about it first, right? Because at the end of the day, if it has something to do with, let's just go to the extreme where they're thinking about, kind of like doing some harm to themselves, right? And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Something like that, I am going to have the conversation up front. Now, as it moves away from the degrees of severity, if you call me and ask for some money, hold that thought. I'll call you right back. I'm about to get on the phone call. Here's the deal. There is a direct linkage to the relationship that I have with my nieces. And well, I don't have nephews, I have nieces. There's a direct linkage to the relationship I have with my nieces. So at the end of the day, the reason why that relationship exists is because of my sister. So I will always respect my sister as their parent. It doesn't change. The only thing that changes about it is if their life is in danger. That's my hard line right there. Now, you want to talk to me about some relationship stuff? Yeah, sure, we can talk about it. As soon as I get finished, I'm talking to mama about it. Because mama needs to understand what's going on with you. And here's the other side to it. Maybe she is talking to me about their mama. I will have that conversation with them, and then I'm gonna have a hard conversation with her, because at the end of the day, she is still the parent. I do not violate the fact that she is the parent. So it's a real easy answer, right? For me. And the thing is, I am respecting the parent at all times, regardless. So do you let the niece or nephew? Absolutely. Because there should be no fear in me letting my niece or nephew know that I'm going to talk to your mama or your daddy. You should expect that. And if you don't expect it, that means I'm moving in error. Let me say that part again. If you don't expect me to talk to your parent, that means I'm moving in error, because we have a very flawed relationship. I am setting the dynamics to where our relationship seems to take precedence over the relationship that you have with your parents. And if I am not an advocate of y'all strengthening our relationship and coming back together, I need to look at me. So that's where I'm at. And I think too many times, because we want to be in the good graces of the child, we will violate the primary relationship for the sake of seeing the child, quote unquote, happy. That's a moving target. Don't get caught up into that. So that's just my thoughts. And I love everybody's responses, because again, like we said in the beginning, it's not always a black and white answer. But for me, it depends on the safety of the child. No more, no less. Okay.
My
Yeah, no, go ahead.
my only, I guess it would be considered pushback would be the trust sometimes that our nieces and nephews have in us, and sometimes they don't have a great relationship with their parents, for whatever reason, and sometimes they feel comfortable talking to the uncle or the aunt about certain things.
Mhm.
So that's why I think the relationship is so important. Like for me, it's not as simple as a heart. But severity when it comes to life or death, that's a no. That's going to be an automatic conversation with,
Absolutely.
with the sibling, no matter what. You know, if someone is pregnant, or if somebody is dying or hurt seriously, then those are conversations we're going to have. But those are my only hard lines. Everything else other than that is really going to depend on what it is, because I've had my nieces and nephews reach out to me and say, "Hey, let me get $20." I know they didn't really need it. They just wanted $20. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I gave them $20. It wasn't a big deal. But I've also had a nephew that has reached out and asked me for $300. And I had a conversation with their parent. They were ain't exposing nobody. They were I had a conversation with their parent. And then I got some background information. And even though I had gave it to him before I had the conversation, I knew that after that, I wasn't going to give him any more money. You know what I'm saying? So there is a lot of value in having a conversation with the parents, but I am just probably a little bit more on the other side of, maybe not telling the parents everything. And maybe it's because I'm a counselor. Maybe I'm in elementary school all the time, and I see these kids all the time that the relationship between them and their parents are just like trash, and they wish they had somebody else to talk to. So a lot of times I'm the person they talk to in school. So I understand the value of having somebody, especially an aunt and uncle, to be able to talk to and confide in about serious issues that you may or may not be able to have with your parents. So, but again, I think all of these perspectives are fine. They're okay. And then at the end of the day, they're all situational, and they're all based off how you want to raise your family and how you see your family and extended family fitted into your core family.
Right. And here's the point. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. Let me start off by saying that. However, here's the other side. If they quote unquote lose trust, because I talk to their mama about something they want to talk to me about, does that mean I'm no longer their uncle? Like, I mean, let's just, and that's kind of like the thing, because here's the thing. My core value says that I'm always going to be daddy to my kids, right? Their mama is always going to be mama to them. It don't matter if I like her or don't like her right now. The only thing that matters is she is mama. So I'm not going to ever say anything to my kids to downplay who their mother is, and I will hope vice versa. So at the end of the day, when my nieces come to me and say, "Hey, Unc, I need to talk to you about something," blah 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 blah. Sure, I'm gonna understand what it is, but then after I'm saying, I'm gonna have to talk to your mom about this.
Is there an age? Is there an age? Like, is that like for either one of you guys? Is there like an age? I know kind of Gaddy kind of talked about, the difference between like the teens and 20 versus like in their 30s or something like that. So like for you, coach, is that like different? Like if you had like a 30, I mean, you probably don't have none that old yet. But if you had like a 35-year-old niece,
right?
You know what I mean? That's different than most of my, like all my nieces and nephews. My oldest nephew, I think, is like 26, and then I got all the way down to like 17.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So they're in that age bracket. You know what I'm saying? So like, is there like an age?
I think in this aspect, like I said, there's certain things like what you said, right? My 30-year-old niece called and asked me for $20, $30, $40. Oh, Unc, hey, I had an emergency and I had to put money on my car. Can I just get some money for diapers? Right? And I send you some diaper money. But if you call me again next week and the same car has the same emergency and you need them same diapers, I need to figure out what's going on. And so I'm with you, on that one. But I think if there's a point to where my niece and my nephews really cannot go to my siblings, to my brother, my brothers or my sisters, right, about something that they got going on, like not even to the point of where they don't want them to know about it. I think at that point is very important for me to have a whole nother conversation with my siblings. At that point, we have to have a conversation as, hey, what's going on with you and said child? Because,
good luck with that.
Because this, but here's the thing. What's my relationship?
But I get you in the perfect
what's
world.
My relationship with that brother and sister though?
Yeah,
none of my I put it like this, my brothers and my sisters might cuss you out. They might cuss me out depending on how I come at them, right? But I think we do well with even when we go a long time without talking, we do well with respecting each other's opinions when we talk to one another. So I know that dynamic to me and my siblings. So if I call my brother, my oldest brother, who's 51, one call, he be on here sometimes. So I don't want to call his age out, but I'm in my late 30s. We 12 years apart. There's moments where I have to understand he's my elder, and he might have more experience in some things. But if I come to him and I'm like, hey, this, and this, he's going to hear me out as an adult, right? As his brother who's not his little baby brother no more. He's going to hear me out, and then we can have a discussion about it. And he might even tell me, hey man, listen, this was going on with them, and they don't want to hear from me because I told them to handle the situation this way, and they didn't want to hear it. And now when it blew up in their face, they don't want my help. That's what's going on. Then at that point, I have to know how to address the situation. So I guarantee you, half the time, if you call your sibling and have that conversation, they probably already know where this conversation is stemming from, and probably know the situation the child is calling you about. That's in my experience. You know what I mean? So it's weird. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, the answer is no. The answer is no, because I'm an advocate.
No age, no matter what.
No, I'm an advocate for the relationship. Like we just talked about the extended family. The extended family should be for the core family. So when I change that, then I am wavering in my belief. So at the end of the day, I'm not doing it because it's good for the child. I'm doing it because that's what I believe in wholeheartedly. And when I start compromising those things, and I hate to say it this way, and please nobody take this the wrong way, when I start compromising those things, I become wishy-washy. I become wavering. Like nobody knows who I am. Like one niece may think that I have a favoritism with that one as opposed to the next. No, all my nieces know that I'm equally uncle, period, point blank. Because at the end of the day, my job is for their relationship to get better. If it's not good, I'm trying to help my sister try to figure out why it ain't good. How can I help? How can I be an advocate for you? You see what I'm saying? And sometimes I may have to say, hey, listen, don't fly off the handle, right? But you need to understand what's going on with your 40-year-old child right now. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't change. When we make excuses and make changes and things of that nature, then it's like what we're saying is that we only do it when they're in the house. Well, did the relationship change? No. Well, if the relationship didn't change, then why did I change? Because when I change, now what I'm telling that child is that you can bypass your parents and come to me. This is a safe place to ignore them, disrespect them, or whatever it is you're doing. You see what I'm saying? That's why I say what I say. I know it sounds like it's a hard line, right? But for me, it is. Because at the end of the day, the core family has to remain the priority. And if I'm an extension of that, then now I am an advocate for the core. So that's just my perspective. Like I said, I'm not necessarily saying what you're saying is wrong, and I understand, that you do it as a profession, especially in the school system, but you're mandated by law, right? But just because it's lawful does not necessarily mean it's profitable. So by all means, don't violate the law in your profession. When it comes down to my family, at the end of the day, my siblings, they got to understand what's going on with their kids.
But I just got to know, just in this one aspect, right? Because this is how I'm thinking. But what if I know Uncle Dwayne is a mindset coach or a business owner or a professional in this area, and I really want his opinion about about where to go next in my financial journey. All right, like I know I'm shooting out there, but sometimes, and that's how I think. Sometimes I'm calling said uncle. Like I had a nephew who called me all the time because he wanted to join the military. He called me because he knew Uncle Man was in the military for said years, and I want to make sure I'm making the right decisions. Like, and there's conversations we had about his life, about his medical, stuff that he was dealing with on his journey with his recruiters, and I told my sister I talked to him, but I don't really give her the details because she don't know military like that. I don't know. Does that
Yeah.
change the dynamic?
Nope, because I'm gonna offer the
Okay.
same thing that she asking for with her mama. See, I'm not gonna turn her down, but I'm gonna tell my sister and say, hey, listen, this is what my niece wants. Would you want to be a part of that? Because I don't want to do it for her, excluding you. Because why would I not want to help you as well? All right. What do you do when you offer the help repeatedly and nothing improves? This is what could lead to them coming to us rather than parents. This is a blurred line for me. Great question, Nick. So, if I'm understanding what you're saying specifically, if you offer the help to the sibling and nothing improves, when you say nothing improves, are you saying nothing improves between them and their child? Or are you saying nothing improves with the child coming to me? Because I want to make sure that I clearly understand that before we move on. But I think that's a great question.
I think she's talking more, and I don't want to speak for her, but when me and Uncle was talking about that $20, all right, if I have a niece or nephew, and I'm not calling nobody out on here, who keeps who calls me, and the only time they call me, we talking about money, and now the conversation has changed to where, and don't get me wrong, I definitely kept calling my sibling about this situation,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but now they're not picking up the phone. That's gonna really get on my nerve. But anyway, I started offering opportunities. Hey, I talked to some people out there that work with these programs. Hey, you know, would you do this for certifications? Would you do this? Well, I'm thinking about going to the Army, but well, here's my homeboy's number. He's a recruiter right now. That know what issues you got going on and if there's any avenues, because I know waivers have changed. So see what that look like. Oh, well, I was thinking I'm trying to wait until secure this job for brother. Which one are we doing? At this point, I ain't got no more dollars. And if I can't get in contact with my sibling, I hate to say it like that, but the conversation now has to change, or Stop calling me if the only time you can call me is when you want me to send you some money and I can't offer you no help
Yeah.
with your situation.
Yeah. I'm with that. Um, to your question, Nick, I think it's two ways to look at this. Because if I change the dynamics around and I say, this is my child, right? And maybe the issue is because there's always three sides to every story, right? It's my child version of the story, it's my version of the story, and then there's a truth, right? So you're getting my child version of the story, and it's laced with how they feel, and I'm not listening, and I just don't understand because, he is very rudimentary and strict, and he is by the numbers, and, he just won't let me be great. That's one perspective. But then when we talk, I'm sharing with you what I'm seeing from the perspective of a father, right? I'm seeing how they're behaving and some of these things that could possibly, cause issues, whatever that looks like. But the relationship doesn't change because we're still kind of like a little bit at odds. And what I tell people is conflict, in my opinion, is a great thing because conflict allows the relationship to grow and get better. That's why I'm so big on the extended family being an advocate of the core family. Because if we do not allow that conflict to happen, then what we're doing is we're robbing that relationship of the opportunity of growing. So if the relationship doesn't get better, sure, I can give them a timeout. I can even come in and mediate, but I put them right back into the fight because it's your responsibility, mama and daddy, to work this out with your child. And again, maybe it's just the child don't want to conform to their rules in their house. But we don't necessarily know that because I'm not in the house. And the story I'm getting is that they're sticking to the rules. Well, in my opinion, rightfully so, stick to the rules. So it's like some things that may not necessarily be understood in real time. So to your point, and I hope this kind of helps make it clear what it is that I'm saying. I never lose sight of the core relationship, even if they're still having issues, going back and forth and arguing like cats and dogs and whatever the case may be. That is still mama, that is still daddy, that is still their child. And I can't now if they ask, if the child asks to come stay with me, because I know that happens sometimes. If the child asks to come stay with me, that conversation does not happen void of their parent. Because here's the thing, you're not coming to my house against your parents' best wishes. We're going to work this out. Not only we're going to work this out, we're going to work out what it looks like for the future because this is not going to be a long-term solution. This is going to be a short-term solution that gives you an opportunity to cool off so you guys can come back together as a family. That's why I'm a big advocate of the extended family remaining the extended family, not the core family in extension of. Because a lot of us lived with aunts and uncles. Just keeping it real. When I got my senior year in high school, I lived with my aunt and my aunt. So that's it. And Nick, I hope the response was enough to kind of clear it up. And if not, I'll be more than happy to have that. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can I add to that really,
Sure.
really, really shortly? I think that if you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're repeatedly talking to one of your nieces and nephews, this is not advice, but just a little small tips. Then some of the things I would suggest is that be objective when you're talking, and try to teach if you can. If you're the adult and they're coming to you, you should have some problem solving skills yourself. So try to teach that child or that person some problem solving skills, if this, then that, you know what I mean? And then try to teach or input some sort of critical thinking on that person's part too. And I think those will help the conversation and take some of the burden off of us and then put a lot of responsibility on the child to go back and try to work on the relationship between that child and the parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next talking point, the impact of generational differences. So the question here is, in what ways do communication styles vary across generations in your family, and how can these differences be managed to improve mutual understanding?
Um, if I'm understanding the question right, in what ways do communication styles vary across generations? Right, I think in every way. Man, because some of these things these kids say, you gotta immerse yourself sometimes into their culture, listen to some of their music to understand what they're saying or something. But in your family, and how can these differences be managed to improve mutual understanding? I think part of it is never closing the line of communication between you and your child. Um, there, I tell you, I remember growing up, and it was a different dynamic. You don't come out, kids play over there, kids go outside. You don't come out here, adults are talking. Mind your business, stay in the child's place. But and those things I don't regret growing up with. There is a large difference. There are some things that adults talk about that children shouldn't be involved in the conversation yet. All right, not that's just context that they shouldn't be exposed to. I think, depending on what we're talking about, right? But I think that has become, at least for my generation, that was so much of the culture, to where there was no true communication other than I say do this, and then I say yes ma'am, yes sir. All right. So when it comes to talking to my parents as an adult, it was a weird thing to establish because it didn't feel right. Right. And until it did, but so for me, it's, hey, encourage communication with your kids, and don't ever allow that line of communication to close, or you will become in danger of one day not knowing what in the world they're talking about. They'll be having a whole conversation with you, but they're talking how kids talk today, but because you don't have conversations with them, they've lost you. And now there's a breaking, no matter what you talk about, there's going to be a break in communication, because they're speaking their language and you're still trying to speak your language. And when we communicate consistently as we grow, I think they will understand they will continue to understand what we're saying, and we'll be able to navigate with what they're saying as they grow up. That's all I got.
All right. In what ways do communication styles vary across generations in your family? And how can these differences be managed to improve mutual understanding? Well, I'm going to start by saying, just on surface level, the way we physically communicate with people across the generations has changed. I'm 48 now. Back in the day when we were growing up, when I talked to my grandma, it was on the phone or she came by the house. Now I can talk to my grandkids on the phone. I can talk to them on FaceTime. I can send them messages, text messages, all these different things. So first of all, I want to start off by saying that the communication styles physically are different. And I think one of the things that one of the it creates is sometimes the older generation is expecting the younger generation to communicate like them, and the younger generation is expecting grandma to be texting, right? And grandma like, baby, come on by here and come see, sweet, I got some quarters for you. Rub your feet and get 25 cents, right? Rub grandma's bunions for 25 cents, right? But I mean, I'm just saying, like, grandma want to see you. Grandma want to see you in person. Grandma want to talk to you face to face. Sometimes the younger adults, they want to, I'll just text grandma. How come grandma can't get a phone? You know what I mean? So I think that those are some of the different ways that communication styles are different, just in how we communicate in general. And how can the differences be managed to improve mutual understanding? Is people have to be a little bit more open-minded, I think. You know what I mean? I think, is it okay to teach grandma how to use a couple of little features on the cell phone? Maybe. Um, is it okay that maybe the younger adults go by and see grandma a little bit more often? Yes, that's probably, would help some too. So I think that how to how they can be managed to improve the mutual understanding is that people have to be understanding, and then understand that there is always going to be new language that comes along. You know what I mean? And sometimes words change their meaning along the way. You know, back in the day, I remember we got Christmas songs that talk about being happy and gay. But now when we use the term gay, has a totally different meaning behind it. So I think that's important too, because communication styles along with language and words vary across the generations too.
I agree. You're never too old to learn. I'm gonna start off there. I think the older generation, we can benefit from learning some of their language. I think our language should have been taught to them as they were growing up. So if they don't understand our language now as adults, that's on us. That's just how I see it. I had to learn what the word drip meant. I thought some water was coming out the faucet or something. I didn't realize that, yeah, exactly. I didn't know that. My son had to explain that to me.
I
Like
got that
drip,
Riz.
right? I'm like,
I got Shell Riz.
right. But here's the thing: if you're open to learn, like some of the things they say and how they say what they say, and so forth and so on, then you can connect with them better, right? So I think that's a part of it. Like I said, you're teaching them their language in their growth and development state. Your language. I'm sorry. You're teaching them your language in their growth and development stages. So they should have a very good understanding of how you communicate, what you mean when you say a certain thing, right? You're learning what they're picking up as they're out and maneuvering the space that we call the world. And then in some instances, there may have to be some type of, collaborative communication. Like this thing, I like to talk to my kids, but this is how they prefer to talk. And I'm not talking about put the phone to your ear. I'm talking about like this right here. As long as you do this, they good. But once you pick up the phone and call them, it's almost like you're interrupting them. Sometimes you got to understand that, right? And then sometimes we got to kind of like negotiate and say, hey, at least every now and then I want to hear your voice. You know what I'm saying? Because you can tell something about your child by the sound of their voice, right? So we can't bypass that. And sometimes it may help them to understand that if you take the time and open up and articulate that to them, right? So I think that's kind of like what that looks like. It is a intentional progression towards a mutual understanding that changes with the course of time as they get older. And I think if we're constantly in there communicating, talking, understanding what they're going through, understanding how their lives are materializing right before their eyes, then what you'll find is that that understanding happens. And so you just got to go with the flow. We can't be rigid. I just said that. Yeah. We can't be rigid when it comes down to communicating with them. Okay. But again, we can't be rigid on some things. Okay. So that said, listen, man, greatly appreciate you guys. We're progressing along in this conversation. We're going to move forward to the next question. How have generational differences in values? This is key. How have generational differences in values and beliefs impacted your extended family dynamics, and what strategies have helped bridge these gaps?
Those I call my extended family. We don't believe in this new generational set of values because it's weird out here. Uh, hey, I'm being funny, but I'm so serious. Like my extended family, I don't really have those problems. Like, so there are acquaintances that I've gained through my military career, people that we might argue on social media by commenting on each other's posts and stuff like that. But that's about it. Um, because I've realized that there's an understanding gap, right? We don't. I think for me, we were taught the impact of our words, right? My daddy taught me a long time ago. He said the biggest lie that they taught us in kindergarten was sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt. Words have killed people. Words have caused wars. Uh, so and the values of this new generation comes along with the idea of uh there's no consequences for my words, uh and not even just to the point of like disrespecting a culture or this or that, but we don't realize some of the hate and the stuff we spew on social media. People are watching. It's affecting the younger generation. It's affecting how even the people in our community, our opposite uh age or sex, is viewing us based upon the stuff we're putting out on social media. And so for me, I just don't I just don't believe in the new set of values, and the people that I run with. I know we don't run no more. We sit on social media, because, but you know, one of my boys live in a city over. Another one of my boys live in St. Louis. Another one of my homeboys live in Georgia. I still don't remember what part of Georgia you live in. Uh, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we talk, and when we talk and when we come together, we reason together with the same source. So I don't really, that's my extended family. So I really, this new generation of values, I don't teach that to my children, and I'm hoping that they're not picking it up, that they see it for what it is, because they're being taught properly at home, and they can expose it in their mind. And I believe they do, because they come home and they be like, Dad, let me tell you, teacher told me this, blah blah blah. I remembered it because I know I got to put it on a test, but check Raj, carry on. Yeah, that's that's just me though.
A lot of our grandfathers told us to work hard and, good things are going to come. And then grandpa died and grandpa didn't leave anything behind. And then our fathers taught us work hard. And then our fathers died and didn't leave anything behind. So this work hard, this new generation is not necessarily believing in that anymore. You know what I'm saying? They're seeing people out there who are working smarter and getting to the bag or having a certain level of financial success in their life. Whereas the work hard part, some of them are not buying into it. So I believe some of the beliefs from some of our older generations, and I'm just using that one thing as an example. I believe that those older generations, some of them said work hard, work hard, work hard. And now the new generation they have a different way of doing it, and they're becoming successful, or either even at the same level or better. You know what I mean? At least they're doing different things, and then a lot of us also was taught work hard, go get you a job at the plant, you know what I mean? Work there for 30 years, get you your pension and your benefits, and join the union. And now these kids like, nah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to do this. I'm gonna go make $1 million over here on TikTok while you going to school. You know what I mean? Or while you working hard at the plant. So I think that's some of the differences right there, and the values is just some of the thoughts and belief that the different generations have, sometimes about the same subject, and how it has impacted family dynamics. I think it has caused a division in some families, because the older generation are like, well, y'all are dumb. I'm just saying, they have their 2 cents to say, and the younger generation have their 2 cents. And instead of people respecting that there are two ways to, I wrote my notes there, respecting that there are more than one way, or two different ways, or two perspectives. You know what I mean? I think sometimes people are just, digging deep into their own way, of wanting to do things. But, a strategy that can help bridge these gaps is just to literally understand, like Coach always do with the thing, there's two different perspectives. So
But and it's just, I don't disagree with you, but because I feel like a part of that is, we didn't like when the old folks used to tell us back in my day, and so I don't think we said that enough, or you know that whatever that between generation, it might be y'all, because y'all the one with the grown kids now,
mhm.
uh, but it's like that back in my day thing died somewhere, and so I think kids these days don't really have a sense of why work hard the way we were taught to work hard was.
Because
They
they
didn't
didn't
understand.
see it. They didn't see
They didn't,
grandpa do it, and they didn't see dad do it. So they're
but
like,
we,
well,
yeah,
ain't working.
yeah, I agree, because we were taught to go to school, so they saw, they see us with degrees and stuff. So a lot of us, we sit at a desk, we type, we send reports, versus renovating. When I was 12 years old, I was helping my daddy plaster walls, paint ceilings, and do tiles. And as a teenager, deacon in my church would take me to do odd jobs. So I learned how to, you know. So I've seen that work hard. But I think a part of it is they don't have the appreciation goes away because they don't understand what the world was when work hard was the thing. And I think work hard is still the thing. I think why a lot of people fail at social media or YouTube is because they think it is a quick check. You still
So,
work.
so if I may, um, I think the biggest problem with this particular style of conversation is that everybody, and I've heard it so many different times, we're looking at this as a flat conversation, as though what took place in 1955 is the exact same thing that's going on in 2024. And that's not true. It was a different era. There were different things when they're in play when it came down to making money. Working hard for the older generation, I'm talking boomers now, wasn't an option. Like they didn't have the internet, they didn't have all of those other things. So there was no choice but to work hard, especially if you owned a farm, or if your parents owned a farm, or they owned any plot of land and they did a lot of cropping and all kind of stuff of that nature. Like you had to work hard because you had to share the workload. It's a different era. So I think work hard looks different. So the belief itself shouldn't have changed, because at the end of the day, when you look at the big picture should, should teach you to throw yourself at whatever your dream is. Don't just kind of tiptoe through and say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. No, you throw yourself at it and you be completely committed to that thing. I think the issue when it comes down to it is that we don't understand what commitment looks like, because we're only committed to ourselves and how we're feeling at this particular moment. So what does that really mean? That means that I am committed to how I feel. I'm going to try this thing as long as it feels good. But once it stops feeling good, then I'm going to try something else. So you see that a lot more now than you did back then, because back then you didn't have a choice. You had to go out there and work. You had to, work that 9 to 5. And maybe it wasn't something that you wanted to do. Nobody ever really taught them back then, pursue your passion. Your passion is to get out there and get a check, because you got family, you got mouths to feed. That's the difference. And so when we have these flat conversations, what we're doing is we're missing the mark, because we're not necessarily respecting the big picture, which is time. Time is the great revealer of all of this. It's a different era. So when we look at the differences in values and beliefs, I like to go a step further, because there's this conditioning that exists. Okay, sure. But what do you really do? What do you really do believe? What are your values are? What values are we teaching in the home today? You see what I'm saying? Are we teaching that, and I'm not convincing anyone, I'm just sharing this because a staple of our community has always been God. So are we teaching God and we teaching Christ in the house? Or are we giving them the option to say, well, you do what you want to do and you make up your own decision? Well, for me and my house, I'm going to serve the Lord. So if that's what I'm doing, then my child is being raised up with that. When they get older, they can change, but according to the scriptures, they'll come right back. So I think that's the big thing. That's the difference. What we're doing is we'll look at our parents and we'll say, well, our parents were and this is our generation. I'm not talking about theirs. This is our generation. I will look at our parents and say, well, they believed in God and they didn't do anything with their lives. So I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to say I believe, but my behavior is going to look something different. And I'm going to behave a particular type of way. And my values are going to be kind of like, it's God-ish. When we're in church, we're praising and hallelujah and all that other great stuff. When we step outside of the church, and I'm using the church just as a kind of like a placeholder for this conversation. But outside of the church, we up in the club. We tossing it up. We Petey Pablo and all that other great stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm dating myself when I say that, but that's kind of like what it is. You're unbelievable to your own kids. Your kids don't even believe in what you're saying because you don't believe it. You're saying one thing and you're doing something totally different, and they see it. That's the problem. So until we look ourselves in the mirror and be completely honest, we created the problem that we're existing in right now. If there's a divide between us and our kids, it's only because you were not consistent with your words and your behavior. You're unauthentic. That's the answer. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the thing I've been seeing so many different times. You got parents around here who want to be friends. I think Nick D said that. Parents want to be friends with their kids. Where'd they get that from? Because they didn't like the way that my parents treated me when I was growing up. Get out your feelings and be a parent first. That's the answer. Get out your feelings and be a parent and do what's in the best interest of that child, and stop looking for somebody to tell you that you did a good job. Nobody cares about how you feel when you become a parent. Do what's right for that child. You shouldn't be looking for somebody to stroke your ego every time you turn around just because you fed that child, put clothes on their back, and send them to school. That's what you were supposed to do. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have right now. We are so inconsistent with what we say we believe and what we actually do. And there it is. Recognizing and addressing toxic relationships. So, because we're getting close to time, you guys just bear with us for a few more minutes. So, what are some signs that a relationship within your extended family might be toxic, and how can these signs be identified early? Mine's going to be quick, easy, and simple. I already know.
Mine too, because I already kind of stated mine. If the extended family does not want to follow the rules that have been placed in the core family, peace out. That's a sign right there. And how can you identify them? I think sometimes they can be tricky. And someone used the word manipulation earlier. I know we were talking about something different, but that right there, I think sometimes things can kind of you gotta watch out for manipulation. Um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents. Quick and painless.
Um, I I think when my immediate family dynamic is interrupted by my extended family relationship is when it becomes toxic. What do I mean? If I feel like I'm sacrificing my obligation to my wife or children for the sake of this extended family relationship, it's toxic, because toxic does what? It kills the nucleus, right? It starts to kill the body until the nucleus dies, right? And for me, the nucleus is my core family. And so, well, it's the most high in my core family. But even if you jeopardize my relationship with my first ministry, which is my home, then you jeopardize my relationship with the most high, which means it's toxic. So you're killing me, Smalls. And as my brother would say, I do not negotiate with terrorists. I would have to count the loss, take the loss. That's all I got to say. Hey, Chris, I'm keeping you alive, man. Even though you're not on the mic tonight.
You're damn right.
Everybody got the Batman voice tonight. I think one of the worst things that exists is where we believe because a person is a certain age, they're set in their ways. I think that is probably the worst form of toxicity that exists. You know what I'm saying? Well, they're of a certain age. That means that they can't change. And that's their mindset. And they bring that into your family dynamics. No, no, no. Up in here, around Hennessy and West, here's a set of rules. I don't care how old you are. Sorry. It is what it is. I love you though. But by virtue of me loving you, that's why these rules got to exist. So that's just it. That's simple. Okay. Next question. And the last question for tonight is, how can you set and maintain healthy boundaries with toxic family members while still preserving overall family harmony?
Again, tell them how it TI is, right? You have to, first of all, you have to be clear with your boundary. I think that's the first thing. Say, hey, look, this is the boundary. You know what I mean? And it can't be crossed. And if it does, then we'll cross that boundary when it gets there. But, and I think, again, having a conversation with people with the intent of wanting to keep the relationship, wanting to preserve their overall family harmony. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, man, this is toxic. This behavior is very toxic, and is overstepping boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, I love you, bro, but this got to stop. You know what I mean? And if you care about the overall family, then you know what I mean, you can't keep crossing these boundaries with me. So I think that having a really in-depth or really direct conversation about what these boundaries are and if they're being crossed by certain family members, I think is what you have to do. You have to have a conversation, and the conversation needs to be effective. um, Whatever that looks like between you and whoever that toxic family member or members are. And Sometimes preserving the overall family harmony, just being honest, is sometimes just not having any communication or having a relationship with these people, and that's okay. Just because we are born and we have the same blood does not mean that we automatically have to get along. It does not mean that just because you got the same blood as somebody, that somebody is not going to be toxic. Like, everybody who you know is toxic right now that you are not related to is a family member to somebody else. So it is what it is.
I'm dropping the facts. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Hey,
With this question, how? Openly, honestly, and directly. Stop being passive when it comes down to the boundaries that you need to establish for your family. It's that simple. Again, openly, honestly, and directly. And that being said, that takes us to our final thought for the night. Final thought for the night. Okay. Having a little technical difficulties. That's all right.
okay, it's on me. I kind of felt that shit just went. Man, for me, for the final thoughts for this conversation, really, it's be intentional with your walk. Not necessarily, and I'm not saying don't be intentional with your goals, but sometimes as we get older, as life moves on, where we're heading, the things we're reaching for sometimes change. I was trying to look more like this, and now that I'm older, I'm trying to move a little bit more like this. But be intentional with your walk, with who you walk with, what you believe, and now with who I allow in my path has to be walking the same path as me. We may not be trying to look like the same thing, right? But we're trying to achieve the same thing. We walk with the same core values. There's people that I see in the gym every day. We on the same path, but I'm trying to get bigger. They trying to get faster and smaller. But we still about our health. We still about our fitness, right? That's just kind of the concept that I look at this with. So now when our extended family is built, there's a less likelihood of toxicity. Not that that it won't happen or that it's impossible, but it's a less likelihood of toxicity, of discord. And then my immediately family is not affected negatively by those negative relationships I've allowed to to creep into my house or creep into my family, and it won't destroy the nucleus of what I got going on. So that's my final thought. Love you.
Tonight we've been talking about exploring the dynamics of extended families. First of all, when you look at the extended family, these are people who we have, I guess, kind of vetted in some cases, or people who have passed the test to be part of our extended family. So think about that. These people had to qualify to be part of our extended family. And this is for the people, like I said, for me, who believe that relatives and family are different. So like my friend Clyde, who is part of my extended family, like, we both had to meet certain criteria in order for us to be friends for so long. If I don't meet certain criteria, he's not going to want to be my friend, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So first of all, I want to start with, you know, these people have, like I said, passed the test to become part of our extended family. Now, that means that we value these relationships. So because we value these relationships, when we have problems or disagreements or situations that come up, it is very important that we try to work and get to the root of the problem and try to get rid of it, because the extended family can be a great source of support for you and your core family.
I greatly appreciate this conversation. I knew it was going to be a good one. I knew it was going to be fun. But I invite, if you have not seen the whole thing, I invite you to go back and look at the entirety of it. I like where Garfield just went. There are people who I'm related to, and there are people who I'm relative to. The people who I'm relative to, those are the people I spend more time with. And so we have to, like Garfield said, we have to make sure that we're vetting them. We also need to realize that we are an active participant in every relationship that we find ourselves in. We have to learn to stop maneuvering within that relationship space passively. And when I'm saying passively, you're just allowing things to happen and then you'll respond to it. And then in some shapes and in some situations, you respond in a very passive way. Like, well, when you did this, no, respond directly, open and honestly. Let them know what the offense was and, help them to understand that. Because when you don't do it, they think it's okay. For people who feel that they're too old to change, they're stuck in their ways and, all that other great stuff, that's fine. Do that over there. It just won't work for me and mine, because there's something that we're building here, and I would love to take you along with me, but you get a vote, and whatever you choose, I am okay with allowing that to happen. So that being said, I want to just thank everybody for everything they've done tonight. Every comment that you guys placed in the chat were awesome. Panel members, as always, you guys are amazing. Miss J, we appreciate you back there on the Wheels and Steels. Wheels of Steels. Listen, tomorrow morning, 10:30. We're reframing the image of relationships, so make sure that you tune in. And we're going to be talking about what a healthy relationship looks like. And then again, next Tuesday at 7 p.m., Coach's Corner. I can't even remember what we're talking about, but so far, man, it's been great. So make sure that you tune in. Listen, again, like I said, if you have not hit the notification button and click the drop down and select all, you might be missing some of the value that we're actually bringing on different conversations and so forth and so on. So that being said, you guys have a great rest of your evening and a phenomenal weekend. And don't forget, let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else.